So good evening, ladies and gents. Welcome to our second half of this evening's lecture, Monday night's lectures here at the Astrological Lodge of London. Our next speaker needs no introduction, no introduction at all. Let me put the spotlight on there for her. Sonal Sachdeva. She's an astrologer, speaker, writer. She's a Vedic consultant, also works at the Watkins bookstore. She's one of our former vice presidents, and she's currently on the committee at the moment. She also is into filmmaking, videography, owns her own YouTube channel. She also has a diploma from the CPA, Center of Psychological Astrology at with Liz Green. But her focus is more on Vedic practices and understandings, studied under the great guru Pandit Sanjay Rath. She also deals with a number of skin products, oils, and things of that nature. She's a woman of many talents, and one of them is Vedic astrology. So this evening she's going to be talking about Prashna. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, which is the basically the Vedic version of Horary astrology. Without further ado, it's over to you. I've made you co-host as well, so if you want to share your screen,
okay.
You may.
Thank you, Israel, for that very glorious introduction.
And I believe it's two parts as well. Then next week we shall have the second part, I believe. Yes. So yeah, we can see the screen. I don't know if you want to you want to do it. Yeah.
Oops. Okay. So we'll just thank you all very much. I'm going to go slow, and maybe for next time, we can do much more in detail. Because I just want to introduce the subject. I know that a lot of you may be familiar with horary and especially traditional horary principles, which is, um, sort of quite. I don't want to say that they have a lot, they are like Vedic principles, but there is a lot of similarities. And perhaps if you look pre-Hellenistic times, then there would have been a lot of overlap. But anyway, that's not the topic today. The topic is a strictly Indian horary or Hindu horary or Prashna. Prashna in Sanskrit literally means question, right? Let's begin with a prayer to Ganesh. We all are familiar with Ganesh. So ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनः शृण्वन्नोतिभिसीदसादनम् ॐ गणेशाय नमः. Okay, welcome everyone. Let's move forward. Now, the horary system as we know it is one of the key angas or organs in Jyotisha. Now, we are all, feel free to like unmute yourself if you have any questions. I don't mind at all. If you have any questions throughout, it's rather have it like as and then rather than wait till the end, because I am aware that there is a difficult terminology regards some of the Vedic terminology in Sanskrit. So when we talk of Jyotisha, Jyotisha is nothing but in Sanskrit that means the light. And so Jyoti is light, Jyotisha is the light that we can, the light of knowledge, and that is all to do with astrology and so on and so forth. So literally there is no term as Vedic astrology, it is called Jyotisha, right? And because it is gets connected to the oldest texts on the planet, the most sacred texts, and so hence it's called Vedanga Jyotish. Okay. And it's roughly divided in the six limbs. So you have like natal horoscopy, we are all familiar with that. Then you have Gola, which is astronomy, which is really fascinating, because without astronomy, there would be really, you have to be able to see the night sky, especially the nakshatras, the fixed star constellations, what constellation it is. So all of that is astronomy. Now, what is interesting is that um, the NASA, whenever there are eclipses and all of that, NASA actually uses the same system as far as astronomy is concerned as the Indian system, which is the sidereal system. So if you look up in the night sky, what constellation the whatever the lunar or solar eclipse is having, if you go on the NASA website, or whatever the constellation, sure enough it will be matching to the Indian system. So that is interesting that the tropical has shifted, and I don't need to say much about the shift. We all are familiar with it, we all know about it. There has been lots of people in the lodge who have done loads of talks regarding the sidereal zodiac versus the tropical zodiac. So I'm not going to go into that. So anyway, so suffice to know that from astronomical viewpoint, that as we see in the night sky, is how the actual planetary placements are. Nimitta is omens. Now, omens is a huge part of Jyotisha. Omens is literally, as we will see, like this whole time today, I'm going to just do like omens and, what the querist and what is the role of the astrologer, because these are very, very vital, um, yeah, vital signs, and extremely pertinent and extremely important for any well meaning astrologer to be familiar with. So that's nimitta for you. It's nothing but signs, and as Carl Jung said, there are no coincidences, so there we go. Then Prashna or Horary. Now again, Prashna is about the horary part of it, and we'll see how different kinds of horaries are there throughout the country, because it's a huge, huge tradition coming from thousands of years. So it is extremely potent. So muhurta or electional is another big topic, okay, under Jyotisha. Muhurta literally means what is finding a good time to do what, okay, which is nothing but electional astrology. Somebody is getting married, you're moving house, what day of the week should you be doing, is it good to move on a Saturday? Of course it is good. Is it good to move on a Tuesday? Of course indeed it is. But do not marry on a Saturday, do not marry on a Tuesday, because they are ruled by malefic planets, Mars and Saturn and Mars respectively. So why would you want to get married? Because marriage is all about Jupiter, it's all about Venus. You want a strong Venus, strong Jupiter. So hence electional tackles with all of that. So we have very, very detailed muhurta about rules about everything, literally starting new projects to whole host of things. Then we have Ganita, which is mathematics, which is all about calculations of the speeds of planets, so on and so forth. Calculation of lunar eclipses and all that. Of course, nowadays we have all laptops and computers, software, click of a button, and Sri Jyoti Star or whatever, all the which is the other software, Solar Fire Gold, and all of that will just give you click of button, all sorts of charts. But really a good astrologer will need to know at least some knowledge about the movement, about the calculations, and so on and so forth. Now, these, as you can see, they are roughly further divided into skans. They are different like departments. They get further divided into. So it's a very, very detailed study. And so Gola, and which is astronomy and mathematics, go under one section, which is Ganita and Gola. So that goes under one section. Then we have Hora, which goes into, Hora, which goes into, comprises of Jataka, that is a natal horoscopy, Muhurta, that is how to elect a chart, and Nimittas. Nimitta, as I said, is a omen, is a signs, and how to read them. Okay. And then we have Samhita. Samhita is nothing but Gola Shastra and aspects of Hora related to mundane astrology. So all these three, all the six gets further, two each gets divided into all of that. Now, in Kerala, I don't know if you have heard of Kerala. It's in the southernmost state of the country, okay? And in fact, Prince Charles, or rather, should I say, King Charles, has got actually a huge connection with Kerala, especially like astrologers in Kerala. Kerala is also famous for Ayurveda, and I do believe and I do know that he is a frequent visitor, and he has a fleet of doctors and astrologers coming from Kerala. And there's a very famous Krishnan Poti, an author who wrote a dozen books, loads and loads of books on astrology. And there's a particular system called Ashtamangala Deva Prashna, right? Ashtamangala is like the 8 questions given to the divine or asked to the divine, and then they read the chart. So you can see these 8 objects in the background, okay? And we'll go a little bit into that because that also has connections with Buddhism and other these symbolism. So the Ashtamangala, Ashta is 8 in Sanskrit. They have a very powerful connection with the 8. Number 8 is also our charakarakas, that is our karmas that we have in the 8 departments of our life. Because remember, there are 9 grahas, 9 planet system. We do not do the outer planet because it cannot be seen with the naked eye, and because they are extremely slow moving, so they have a more or less very little influence other than on a collective consciousness level. Okay, so so coming back to this Ashtamangala Deva Prashna, it refers to 2 things. It's like numerology rolled into 8 different auspicious items, and these items are listed here: ghee lamps or brass lamps with clarified butter, mirror, gold, milk, yogurt, fruits, book, and a white cloth. And then they ask a question and they put like little objects in there, and they get hold of all some very good astrologers and they are literally coming together and draw this mandala on the ground, which is extremely powerful and very auspicious. Okay, here are different traditions are different. The Nepali Buddhists, while the Chinese Buddhism have different objects too. As you can see, the endless knot, the lotus flower, the dhwaja. Dhwaja is we all know the endless knot. Okay, it's right there. The lotus flower we are all familiar with. It's so beautiful. It's very sacred to even the Hindu system, Vedic system. Dhwaja is the great flag. You can see that there, and then fly with Dharma Chakra. You can see the Dharma wheel with the 8 spokes. Again, 8 is a very auspicious number. The Kala Chakra, which is a huge resource about the 8 directions and the 8 devtas in the wheel of time. The 8 different directions, 4 primary directions, and the 4 sub primary directions are also related to this dharma chakra. As you can see here, the eight spoke wheel. The Buddhist way is also about the eight various ways of in terms of that number also maps into the eight. Now, interestingly enough, eight is also the number for Saturn. So again, the number eight carries a lot of karmic stuff and things like that. Then we have the Bumpa, and again, you can see the beautiful sort of the vase and so on, and the gold vase and all of that. The golden fish, you can see the beautiful golden fish. The conch, you can see right here, extremely auspicious in any Indian ceremony, any Hindu ceremony. And even when they begin any kind of prayers or any any rituals, they always blow the conch. It is one of the instruments, it depicts sound, so one of the instruments of Lord Shiva. So now I want to say something about the karmic script. We are all here on this planet because of our difficult karmas from many, many lifetimes. Now, whether you buy into this or not, but the whole of the Buddhist philosophy, the Chinese Buddhism is also based on this, the idea that we are born here and again we'll be carrying on birthing again, and there are many many the entire Vedic literature is underpins this particular philosophy, and they have even gone and seen like what kind of karma we are carrying in the birth chart. We have very detailed analysis of what the person, whenever they ask a question, because we also have to map it to the natal chart, and what kind of karma is the person carrying, what kind of prarabdha is, what does prarabdha, sanchita, and agami karma mean? Because roughly these are the three categories. So prarabdha karma is something that is experienced through our present body, and it is unavoidable. That means if you're suffering from some kind of a long-term disease or something, then it is a part of your prarabdha to be able to suffer and get over it. But maybe because, now who's to say, oh, I misused my body, so on and so forth. I mean, that's a very difficult topic, though we have our ways. Like, for example, if you have moon as the king of your chart, then for sure that this lifetime you have abused, not this lifetime, previous lifetimes you have kind of abused your body and so on and so forth. So, and the depends on how afflicted the moon is, if it is connected to the eighth house and so on and so forth, it will give you the nature of the karmas. Okay, and the same principle will apply for the karmas given by the eighth house from Arud, which I will come to in a bit, and from your question, that is the not the natal chart, but the Prashna chart. Okay, so the eighth house carries a very, it's like an bottomless well. There is so much of karma. Eighth house from the moon chart. If you read your own moon chart, you will know what the eighth house from the moon is, what it represents, whether there are planets there. If there are planets there, then you owe those people some kind of karma, and so some kind of debt which you have to repay back this lifetime. It is unavoidable. Okay, so the karma and the karmic script that each one of us are carrying is extremely important. It literally underpins the whole of the Indian Vedic philosophy. And so the prarabdha is something that is very difficult to shake off. It is not something that, oh, yes, I will do some rituals and something and get over it. No, you have to go through it. Then we have the sanchita karma. Sanchita karma is nothing but the sum of one's past karmas. That means they may not all fructify this lifetime, But if you are on a very deeply spiritual path, and if you're towards moving towards nirvana or moving towards some kind of liberation in mind, then you will want all the sanchita karmas which you have accrued over millions of lifetimes to just turn up here now, so that you can get over it, you can burn lot of these karmas, get over it, and then you are ready for moksha or nirvana, or the path for higher lokas. Okay, so this is all depends on a very personal outlook and what part of a spiritual journey each person is on. It's not for everyone to just say, okay, I'm going to embrace all my sanchita karma now, because it is very difficult, to be honest. Eighth house, which is the house for all the karmas, eighth house from the moon, eighth house from Arud Lagna, eighth house in any of the 16 divisional charts, eighth house from your Arud Lagna, from your sun, from your moon chart. These carry heavy duty karmas. So for anyone to say, you have to be a real yogi, a real sadhu, to be able to say, okay, I'm going to embrace all of that. I want to be done with it in this lifetime. It's very difficult. Okay, normal human beings will not be able to digest or burn in that manner, but we have to be aware of it. And then we have the agami karma, which is a result of our current actions. Like, you may have heard this saying, I don't want to use a bad language, but it's like karma's a bitch. Remember, we all say that. Okay, now you may say that, oh, it's like a colloquial, it's become part of the lingo. But the thing is, it is actually karmically, it is, we literally reap what we sow. There is no shortcuts in that. If you have been not nice to someone, or if you've tried to kind of put somebody down, or whatever, it can be many things. Or if you have tried to steal from someone or something, knowingly or unknowingly, it will turn up in your sphere. The repercussions, the effect of it will turn up invariably. So we have ways of seeing it, whether the person is going to have body problems or whatever. So we all have those issues. Okay. Okay, so agami karma also is a kind of like an ongoing thing. So whatever you may perform, you may get results of it only very much in this lifetime. It often is like, sometimes the children treat their parents really badly. They shove them in their old age homes and they don't want to really look after them, and it's a really sad situation. And then guess what? Like 30 years, 40 years later, they experience a similar sort of karma coming towards them, you know? So it's almost like the sins of the forefathers continue, in terms of he did or she did this to me, and so I shall, do the same. And invariably, you find that your children or grandchildren may treat you similarly. So just like little thing on karma. Okay, now there are many oops, I think I missed a slide. Okay, okay, never mind. Okay, so there are many texts on various kinds of, because remember, Prashna is a huge topic, and so great authors have written stuff. One is Varamira, which you may have heard of. Another one is coming from Prashna Tantra, which is by Neelakant. Another one here, you can see Varamira, Shripati by Varamira, in his monumental work Daivignya Vallabha, is dealing also with that kind of with the science of horary astrology. Okay, so there are many few texts, but the texts are not like huge amount of text. They are core texts. They may be maybe like You can count them on the fingers, but they are monumental works, and they are ancient, and the principles are very, very clear. Okay, the rules are very clear about horary, and I'm inclined to believe, if I may push the board, that that's why I said, when I said earlier in the at the beginning, that the the medieval horary has a lot of, there's a lot of sort of similarities and commonalities between the rules and so on with the Indian horary or Prashna. Anyway, so one of the says is according to the opinion of the astrologers, all those human beings who wish to know the current good and nature of things in their lives. Once upon a time, even the Lord of the world, Brahma, approached Vishnu to learn about horary. So you see, we are already getting a glimpse from these texts about that. How do you begin an horary? It's not just a question of, hey, I'm going to ask a question and that's it. It is not as simple as that, because there are many, many things to be seen. The nature of the astrologer, when the person is asking, who is asking, the beginning of the query, you have to first pray to Lord Narsimha. Narsimha is the avatar for the 10th house. He's the avatar he's a Vishnu avatar for also for Mars. If you look in, I don't have, maybe next week I will get the picture of, I'll put up the picture of Narsimha. Narsimha is very much related to Mars. And we all know that Mars, Sun, and in Vedic, we also include the south node of the moon, which is Ketu. These three are very strong fire. Okay, they are fiery because sun is a source of all the fire, and hence it is the source of all light, and the light of knowledge is nothing but Jyotisha. So when we talk of fire, we talk of also Mars. Okay, so because Mars is also a very fiery planet, it is the key fire planet. And then we have the south node of the moon, which is called Ketu, and that is like a laser beam of fire. So these three form the great fire trilogy. Okay, and so here, one for Mars and the 10th house, it is Lord Narsimha, which is the main avatar. So we have to, before, because when we talk of Jyotish, when we talk of any of this work, it is Mars ruled. Okay, it is Surya, it is to do with light, it is to do with fire, because fire and light are extremely, like, absolutely connected, right? You would agree. So hence all this falls under um, fire and light, and hence we have to invoke Lord Narasimha, who is fierce by his form, who's ever emitting fire from the face, who is one without a second, who is overlord of the entire universe. So this is a very important, this is the beginning of, when we ask a question, we have to bring in the deities, we have to bring in the avatar, because without, we have to invoke their blessings, because unless we invoke their blessings, we won't get a very clear answer. Okay, okay. The duty of the querist should worship in his house the planets, the Rashi Chakra, that is the zodiacal diagram. Remember that at least the Indian, and of course, even the Western, the round chart, the tropical chart, the round tropical chart, as well as we have three different kinds of charts within the Vedic charts. And so even that, it looks like the ray of the sun. It is a mandala, okay? It is an auspicious diagram but a mandala is with, like, boxes, and they are mystical in their nature. And so the mandala is a very powerful instrument. So he or she needs to have their own rashi chakra, the diagram with stars, with flowers, fruits, precious stones. He should be full of devotion towards God and the planets, and offer homage to the deities and the preceptors, and then carrying fruits and gems and sacred vice. I don't know. He should go to the, I don't know what that is, a misprint, I think. He should go to the astrology and pay respects to him with great reverence, facing an auspicious direction, which is the east or the north. And he should put a query in front of him with pure mind, and the query should be repeated only once. So this is on the behalf of the querist, okay, that he should be able to do that if he wants a very definitive, clear answer, okay. And another thing is that when you have to see what kind of circumstances the people are in, their situation, where it is located. If it is beautiful surroundings, very green, charming trees and flowers, and okay, rendered pure by cow dung, okay. It's very auspicious cow dung in India. It's like antibacterial and all that, though it does sting. But the flowers and the water and a place pleasing to the eyes, surely it is a sign that when in under these circumstances, when somebody asks a question to an astrologer, then they will without a doubt get their desired object fulfilled, okay, objective fulfilled, especially if it is pleasing to the eye and auspicious objects are surrounding you, and so on and so forth. So say the acharyas Maya and Manitha. So these are must be some of the writers or the scholars who wrote, this is like thousands of years ago. And I would say not much has changed, because we still follow those same traditional rules. Now, I'm not suggesting that anytime anyone books a reading, that you go run to a garden or something, but it's not impossible, right? If you are, the weather's nice and you can sit in the garden, why not? Or in the patio where there are some nice, flowers and so on. And especially in the UK, where it's like the greatest of the rose countries. You have like roses galore. I mean, what a great thing it is, what a great fortune to have those fabulous colored roses, and the smells are so heady. Oh my god, the lemon balm and so on and so forth. So you have to pay very close attention to the environment. Is the astrologer surrounding himself with, like, beautiful gorgeous plants which smell lovely, and so on and so forth, when the person is there for a reading? Or is he like cooped up in a little hole, and literally it's dark, and it's just like computer light on, and that's it. And so there are many, many factors to be considered, okay. Okay, any questions so far? No?
Doesn't seem so. Yeah. So
Sorry?
I said doesn't seem so. But
Okay.
we are listening.
Okay. The recording is on, right, Israel?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So so as per Prashna Marg, it says that he who has acquired a thorough knowledge of different horas, within the five siddhantas, who have inferential ability, who's initiated into secret mantras by the preceptor, can know horoscopy, and who knows also horoscopy. So somebody, that is, the qualifications are very clear by Varamira and lot of the other great astrologers. They are saying basically that one who is who what kind of a person will be able to predict properly who will be able to guide you, giving you clear, clear answers, is somebody who is not only is he an adept in astrology and astronomy, Vedic, Vedic material, as well as the mantra shastra. That is, it's the mantra shastra is ruled by the fifth house. If you see in the chart, the fifth house, and it's in trines to the ninth house and the first house, the lagna or the ascendant. And these are the trines. These are the three most important houses literally in the entire chart, because they make or break your future in every way. The ninth house is often said it is the house of the past, what we bring to the table from the previous lifetime, what fortune we bring to the table. If the ninth lord is under an affliction, then the father, because we consider the ninth house as the house of the father or the mentors and so on and so forth. So the ninth house is afflicted, then our fortune, our grandfather, the lineage has ran into some kind of a problem. Okay, if it has gone into a nice, not so nice house, then that lineage is in a little bit of a problem. So that means, as far as our karmic remit is concerned, our punya is concerned, it's like deficit. There's not much of credit going on there. So how do we build it? The building is done through our ascendant, because that's will give us our worldview, our intelligence, our shakti, our intelligence shakti, to be able to think and discriminate. And then is the fifth house, which is the house of the mantra, the house where we feel passionately about things, because it's the natural house of Leo. Wherever Leo is, it we feel passionately. And the fifth house, definitely, whether you have planets there or not, that Lord, you are never going to be immune to the fifth house, because fifth house is what we love doing. It's our creativity. Children are also creativity. They are products of creativity. So we love what happens in the fifth house. So if you have malefics there, then you have to work harder. You have to be quite, it's like literally the mantras have to be matched, the meditations, the rituals that you want to do in order to overcome some of the learning and so on and so forth. We have to see from the nature of the fifth house. Hence, the person, any astrologer, has to be adept at mantras. That means they have to have a very strong fifth house. That is literally what they are saying, what Varamira is saying. And he should be well versed in ritual and expiatory ceremonies. Now, if somebody comes with a really terrible Mars and a Saturn transit, and some of us will face that, because guess what? Next month, in literally July, end of July, Mars, sidereal Mars goes into Leo. It's slowing down. Venus is going retrograde, and it will conjoin Mars in the sign of Leo, and it will be opposite Saturn. So, what do you expect to happen? It is Saturn opposite Venus and Mars. That's a lethal opposition. It is not an easy opposition. So, if you are then in a planetary period or a sub period of Saturn, Antardasha of Saturn and Mars, then you've had it, because then you are really stuffed. And then is the job of the astrologer to advise how to overcome some of the problems. Maybe they will have some kind of issues with their legs because it is Saturn. Maybe it will be issues with their nervous system, because in Vedic, Mars rules the nervous system. So maybe they are like kind of on the edge, the anxiety levels are off the roof, so on and so forth. So what is to be done? So that is only a good astrologer will be able to advise how to overcome some of these issues. Okay. Okay. So, and then you have to have, oops, sorry. Um, and then certain types of austerity also has to be observed by the astrologer. Otherwise, your predictions will go wrong. You can't party all night. You can't like go to a pub and stay there till 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, drink yourself silly, and then come back home and then wake up and have a chart reading and do a prashna for a client, and that's not going to work at all. Okay, I'm sorry, but it will not, because the power of intuition, because the pineal gland, which is on top of just above here, just behind this, where I'm putting my finger in, the pineal gland is a seat of, or the powerhouse for intuition and for reaching other sort of, higher, states of consciousness. And so if through a lot of, pollution in the food and food pollutions and, chemicals in the food and eating rotten stuff and, and a lot of sort of alcohol addictions and drug addictions, this can get really corrupted, and the pineal gland may literally shrink, and there may be layers on top of it forming to, and which will inhibit this power to intuit and so on and so forth. So then, under those circumstances, would you go to somebody as such an astrologer? Would be the question, that would you want to do for guidance? Would you be going to such an astrologer? So,
But we may not have the astrologer's details.
what do you mean astrologer's details?
Yeah, but you're saying that these particular planetary positions, but the average person will, well, first and foremost, the average person who would normally go to an astrologer normally would not know nothing about astrology anyway, let alone knowing maybe certain placements that maybe the astrologer has or doesn't have. So they're in a place of a disadvantage, no?
Uh, are you referring to this one? Are you talking of this aspect here, or are you talking of? See, there are a couple of things, Israel. One is that you, like my example earlier, that would you go to an astrologer who's like piss drunk and then comes back and then he's groggy eyed and then he's going to do a prashna? That's not going to work, because of the whole um, you are kind of polluting your system by some of these things. So you have to have a, then that is the nature of astrological reading you will get. And as Liz Green once said, you deserve the clients that you get. I've always remember her words, such fantastic words. And she would always say that one deserves the kind of clients one comes in, one finds. Why? Because often it is mirrored. So if you are going to an astrologer who's like so groggy eyed and getting up and doing this kind of prashna for you, then you're not going to get very clear answers. You're not going to get very highly intuitive answers from this kind of an astrologer. So yes, I take your point. How would you know?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what
How
the
would
point.
you
Like
know?
the average person, maybe for people like us who are here, we may be able to think, but most people who consult an astrologer or any kind of divination,
Yeah.
they personally don't know nothing about that or how it works, or so they are automatically there are a point of disadvantage, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Saying,
of course they are. That's why I'm bringing in the quote by Liz Green, that you
yes,
deserve the clients that you get, because
right, yeah,
such kind of an astrologer will then naturally attract the clients who are going to be making those mistakes, won't
right,
have the
yeah,
clarity to
yeah,
ask them, so it's like a you are hooked into this kind of a setup.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
if it is a slightly more sort of, the person may not know any astrology, they may not even perhaps even know any tarot, but they may be very intuitive themselves, they may be very switched on, like healthy lifestyle, maybe,
yeah,
sort of that kind of a person. So maybe they will not even come to perhaps an astrologer, for example, who's like drunk, pitch drunk, and then turns up at 2 in the morning, and then he's sort of like, doing a
yeah,
chart reading on the fly. Maybe that's not the kind of, because you have to understand that the there are no coincidences. There will always be this kind of a mix, a fit, but
yeah,
this is an advice given in the Shastras, that is, it's coming from the ancient texts,
yeah,
and this
yeah.
they are very clear on who can do and who cannot do, you
Okay.
know so
Okay.
so and yeah, anyway, so this was
I
my
think
little.
Jill's got her hand up. I
Mhm.
think Jill wanted to say
Yeah,
something.
Yes,
yeah,
Jill.
I just wanted to comment on that. I mean, shouldn't the responsibility of the astrologer not to go out the night before? Because if they're given a reading the next day, surely they want to be at their best
Of
intuitively
course.
and mentally. So they
Indeed.
wouldn't go out. Well, maybe
No,
that's just my
no,
opinion.
Jill.
You wouldn't
Absolutely.
do that if you was an astrologer worth your salt. You wouldn't do those type of things.
100%, Jill. Absolutely. Well connected to that point. Absolutely. If you care to be, worth your salt, as you said, if an astrologer is really worth his salt, why would they do that? And so that's why I said, these are rules laid out. You have to be very conscientious, because you're taking on a responsibility of somebody. It is very, you can't give people misleading. It's a lot of heavy karma, to give people misleading answers. It's one thing not knowing certain aspects, but that is okay, but that is just because everything is a learning process. Nobody knows everything, but it is another thing to knowingly do some things and then accept a client, after doing these, or somebody who's like hasn't done their work properly, and he was in a hurry and who's not had dinner, and they are like in a bit of a fix, and yet they are like haven't been able to manage the time, and yet they are doing the reading, which is not a good service to the querist or the person who's coming in. So that's another, there can be many scenarios, but yes, I totally agree. Totally. Anyway, so there is many things. Now another thing is where you are sitting, the sites. This is a very important point. The nature of the spot occupied by the questioner. Okay, now you could well say, oh, now for example, okay, I will tell you this is why this is so given so much of importance, because these are like the set of rules which is right at the beginning of most Prashna texts and there are like some 10 of them, and all monumental works are carrying these fundamental principles. Okay, they may say it slightly differently in Sanskrit, but they are all alluding to the same thing. So here, the nature, what sites, where are you somewhere, like I said, I gave the example earlier, are you in a patio full of blooming flowers and so on and so forth, or are you very comfortably, if it is winter, then you got like nice sun streaming through, and you're ensconced in warm place, fire burning, so on and so forth, which is also very positive, or are you in a cold where there's mold growing, and oh my god, and that's not going to be conducive at all. because the minute you have the person is going to visit, it's like a two-way street. It's not just, oh, it's a client and me, it's like you're already locked into each other's consciousness. This is a very important part of the whole practice. And then it has to be free from dirt. Are you sitting like in a little cabin which is like not been dusted, and it's like smelling and moldy and all of that, and like cold? Then that is Saturn's influence. So what does that mean, Saturn's influence? That means the whole place. That means if there is dirt and all of that, then that is a nimitta, that is an omen that there is some kind of a disease about to enter the life of the querist. That is Saturn, because Saturn is a karaka, or the significator for all diseases. Okay, I'm not talking of specific diseases, I'm talking as a like a general overall significator of disease. So that is your first nimitta. So choose the place very carefully. Okay, then is it abounding in gold, gems, and crystals, and Jupiterian and Surya or solar influences? Because if you have like a beautiful, let's say, like a little crystal ball. Um, well, I don't mean like a crystal ball, but maybe like a beautiful crystal, or a like a amethyst or something, like a very pretty stone, a yellow sapphire or something, like a big, beautiful big thing, and it is attracting, streaming in light and all of that, then it is very positive. Okay, it is throwing in a good chi all around the room, or whatever the atmosphere, a pleasant atmosphere. It's very beautiful, it's Jupiter. Are there gorgeous women around, or even if it is like a cafeteria, it is fine. But are there like very pretty peoples around there, wearing lovely clothes and all of that? Then if they're wearing beautiful clothes, then we are suddenly in the territory of Venus. That means the person who's asking you the question will most likely have a very nice Venus. Okay, and could well be about a question, Venusian question, or it could be about a very nice Jupiter. It could be about a boyfriend, because in Vedic system we have the significator of a boyfriend is, or a husband, or a relationship is often Jupiter. Okay, one of the significance. Jupiter has other like finance and so on and so forth, but one of the significations is Jupiter. Okay, and then are there such auspicious ceremonies such as marriage going on? Let's say you're sitting at a cafe, and suddenly, or a nice like a private space kind of thing, and suddenly there is like a party of like a marriage party walks in, and they're all like bridesmaids and all. There are pretty girls and boys, and they're all sort of laughing and all that. That's a beautiful sign. That's a fantastic nimitta. That means it is saying that the person, whatever they wish, whatever they, their desire, whatever they want, this is a very good sign, very positive, right? Because maybe the querent has a question about their business or something, it will fructify. It's an auspicious sign. Okay, is it healthy atmosphere, free from quarrels, litigations, so on and so forth? So is the environment, is there anybody fighting? Maybe the waiter is fighting with some of the customer there, or something, about haggling about the bill or something. Is there some kind of flare ups going on, or somebody returning the food or something, or some kind of somebody? Or if you are at a like a home, then somebody's calling and someone's yelling and screaming about something. It can be any number of scenarios, so you have to read the nimitta very carefully. I have often found that like it is said that there is reams and reams of data on the nimitta, that is on the how to read the signs. if you see, let's say, like a stork or something, it's a harbinger of the sun, some kind of like a negative thing coming. Even of a raven, it is said it's an harbinger of some kind of death in the family or something that you have to do. So birds is a very important nimitta. You have to really pay attention to what birds and, squirrels and every single thing that is going on. Okay. Anyway, there's lots and lots of more. Do we have more time or any questions?
We got about 5 minutes.
Okay, so of course, other than noting the exact time and place, which you have to do naturally, the other thing you have to do is, who is asking, what kind of a question person is asking, what country is he, what is the setup. Is it like a tropical country, what kind of, where is it the person coming from, is he foreign to you, is he, these are very very important, that has to be considered when the questioner is asking the question. What is the nature of the astrologer's breath? Now, you may say that, what? Shwasa, breath? What is she on about? But this is very important because certain energies, because we are all energy fields, you see, certain person comes and suddenly your energy may change. You may not even realize it, and suddenly you're like breathing really fast. That has happened to me all the time. It happens in Watkins because I can really observe this, because literally if you're sitting for a day, there are so many people coming in, 5 people, 6 people, 10 people. And sometimes they are not even getting readings done, sometimes they're just sitting by the side and browsing, but I can feel their energy, I can feel their presence. Okay, so you have to be very sensitive and very conscious of how's your breath. Are you a little scared? Like yesterday, there was this woman who came in, she wanted a reading, right? And it was about inheritance. There was like a colossal inheritance, she had done. She was looking after the person, so on and so forth, something, so, but the tricky thing is, at the same time there was another woman in Watkins, in the shop. This woman came, she must have been like browsing, and and she, from a foreign country, of course, this woman who came in, um, and she started taking little video. Now this bothered my client a lot. She just sat there and she kept looking at the other person. She was absolutely perturbed. Okay, she was like, oh, she can't take pictures, why is she taking pictures, why is she taking videos? And I'm like, oh my god. And suddenly I felt like such a heavy feeling. Okay, and of course I'm bound by the confidentiality and all of that, but I can assure you that the reading was heavy going, extremely heavy going. So this was a sign, because I felt my energy drop because of the circumstances, because the client was perturbed by the woman who was coming in taking an innocent video, as you do, wow, this is pretty, let me just take a video. She didn't want her to take a video, because obviously, I mean, I understand why, because obviously we would be seen and so on and so forth, we would be part of the video. But I think she did not really mean it that way. She was just taking a overall video of the whole shop. But suddenly this woman was like, she can't do that. Can you tell her stop? So I had to tell her that, but I could feel my own breath change, I could feel my own energy change. And I thought like, oh my god. And sure enough, it was very difficult situations. Okay, then you have to see the astrologer's own condition and state, what kind of state the astrologer is in. Okay, is the person comfortable? I was not comfortable. I was like, oh my god, this is such a, for want of a better word, like this is such an pain, such an a pain, like, geez, what's happening here? So I was uncomfortable. Okay, The client was uncomfortable. So there was this whole situation created just before the reading began. So you see, this is terrible. This is not a good nimitta. This is not something. So the person, the astrologer has to be very comfortable. He has to be quite calm. So he has to observe himself as well. Because remember, this is an energy exchange. This is about consciousness. It's a two-way street. It's not a one-way street where you're just telling something and nothing is coming off. You are literally trying because the answers are there. It's your job to just find the answers. Whatever the questions, there is always an answer, but it's up to the very refined and a sensitive astrologer and an intuitive astrologer to be able to connect to those answers. And that connection will also come from the querent himself or herself. Okay. Another thing, what the questionnaire touches, that's another very important clue. You know, what are they touching? What are they wearing? What colors are they wearing? You know, what? I had this woman long ago, she was constantly touching her hair, and, you know, she was constantly kind of like, doing her eyes and all of that. And hair is what? Venus, it's Ketu, south node of the moon. And so literally I could see that there were some issues going on in from that angle. So you have to be very careful about what the person is touching. Do they have like this nervous hands going in all directions, so on. There are many nimittas. Okay, anyway, okay, now I will end with this slide. Okay, here, touching the following body parts at the time of the query is not auspicious at all: navel, nose, mouth, hair on the head, or any parts of the body, nails, teeth. Again, because hair, nails, teeth are ruled by Saturn, it's also ruled by the sun, but hair is also Venus. But for now, this is like an overall thing. So here, the in Prashna Marga, it is saying that it's like it's not good for the querent to touch their hair, or to fiddle around with that. The private parts, okay, now this is getting really weird. Anus, neck, stomach, ring finger, the 9 openings of the body. What are the 9 openings of the body? The ears, the eyes, the mouth, and so on and so forth. So all of that, if they're constantly touching, then there is a problem. Okay, that's not a good sign. Okay, the palm of his hand, the sole of his foot, joints of the body. What does the joint indicate? They are the Gandanta positions. What is Gandanta? They are very karmic positions in your chart. What does that mean? For example, if you have whenever it's like the energetic degrees, okay, few degrees before, like let's say 26 degrees of water signs, to all the way to 4 5 degrees of fire signs. Okay, that portion, so from Pisces to Aries, that's one portion. That is then the trines, then the trine from Leo, Cancer, water trine, to Leo, fire trine. Those degrees are called Gandanta positions. And similarly, end of Scorpio to beginning of Sagittarius are Gandanta positions. And we are talking of sidereal degrees, by the way. So if somebody is touching the joints of the body, like scratching here, or like joints at the neck or by the knee or something, that means they have some big problems in those joints, not in the body joints, as in the problem is not in the body joints, but there is a big issue, because they may have planets, they may have a rising sign in those junctures of the planetary positions, and those are very karmic positions. They literally, it's like a karmic knot. It is very difficult to resolve that karmic knot, very difficult. Okay, or there may be some depression, maybe the moon is in the eighth or some such thing, or maybe the moon is in the fifth house or the ninth house, which can also be a little bit leading to a little bit of depression. These people are prone to depressions, so on and so forth. Okay, any questions? So we end here. Yeah.
Okay. So all Saturnian things, basically, by the sounds of things.
Yeah, so you have to really pay attention to what the other person is doing and
Yeah.
saying, and what they are wearing, what clothing they are
Yeah.
what colors they are wearing. Maybe they are wearing beautiful, gorgeous, pastel colors and all that. Then you know that their moon is beautiful, very strong.
Okay.
There's so many, you have to really have a very close thing. Now, going back to the woman, right? I was talking about who came in and didn't want that female, the other woman, to
Yeah.
film in the shop. This
Yeah.
woman, when she sat down, she was literally like very fidgety. She kept looking
Right.
out both sides. She kept like literally like this, like this. Her hair were disheveled. They were like really sort of nice haircut, cute haircut, but they were totally like in a disarray. And she literally had a very sort of like a raggy top and all of that. And I kept wondering that, why are you looking like this when you have just sort of, I don't want to give details, but you've done really well in terms of your inheritances. So that's a nimitta, that's a omen in itself, that how is this woman going to manage,
Yeah.
do you see that? And
Yeah.
sure enough, like again, like client confidentially, I don't want to say, it was again also something to do with like a man and so on and so forth, but the main thing is that if it was, let's say, in contrast, if there was another woman who had like wearing beautiful pastel colors and very nice, I'm not saying you have to wear makeup, but at least it's like the hair is neatly tied or something, is kind of neatish in
Yeah.
appearance.
You're presentable.
Yeah, you're presentable and you're not, so obviously if both women come up with the query of their queries about, oh, I also want to know about a man or what's happening with him, of course I will know instantly that who has better chances of hooking a man, keeping a man, compared to the one who is like has that nervous twitch, the hair's all over the place, and so it's not a question of finances, it's a question of the overall appearance and the breath, or your own breath, how you are feeling, because
Yes.
this is an energy exchange. This
Yeah.
is not, it's consciousness, and you will be able to feel the answers. You don't even, like the earlier thing I said, that if the surroundings are beautiful, you don't even, you just have to say blindly, wow, your work will come to fruition, whatever the query is.
Yes.
So you see, you don't, so if everything is adding up to something very pretty and nice, and it's all in the environment, the birds are tweeting, and suddenly, there's some gorgeous rare birds come, and it's all beautiful nimitta.
Yeah.
The sun, if the birds have come in, gorgeous birds are tweeting, that means it's the sun is strong. Sun stands for health and vitality. It's a fire.
Yeah.
It's a very, so that is positive, right?
Yeah.
So blindly, you may not even have to look at the chart and you'll say, oh yeah, it'll happen, it'll manage.
Okay.
Okay. So
Okay. I got that. Are there any comments or questions from anybody here? Are we all understanding that? there is going to be second part next week. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that. But yeah, no, thank you very much, Sonal, for that informative setup. It seems like a lot of awareness definitely has to be taking place when consulting Prashna or Horary chart, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, okay, no one got any questions.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question then?
Yes, please.
Yeah, a quick one.
Yeah.
If somebody comes into Watkins though, because you said you've got to look about the environment that their question is in.
Yeah.
But if they do it on the phone or coming into Watkins shop, what do you exactly do then? In respect to taking on the environment, do you look at the clothes they wear, what the hairstyle is, or something, or?
Yeah. You mean when they come into the shop, right?
Yeah, if they ask a horary question in the shop, how do you take the environment into the account? Do you take the environment of Watkins into account?
Yeah, of course. Definitely, Jill. Because you see, that's what happened. I gave you that example of the woman who sat down and, she came to me years ago. I remember her very clearly. She came to me like years ago. And so immediately I recognized her, and I also remembered what her issue was then, and, now. And so, so basically you have to see what that's what I was saying. You have to see what colors they're wearing, what is their state of, how are they looking. She looked very frazzled and
Answered
perturbed.
my own question, really. Okay, thank you.
You see that, Jill, and there's so many. I can feel the energy. In fact, you know what, who's that demon, not demon, demon, the magician, the English magic person, Alistair Crowley, right?
Yeah.
Right now, see, Alistair Crowley was connected with Watkins quite a lot, right? And so I can feel a lot of there, because there's a lot of magic happening in terms of a lot of tantra, okay, in Watkins. There's no doubt about that, because you get all sorts of people. The shop is there with all the the crystals and whole load of stuff and all that, but um downstairs they also have like events and stuff like that, and talks and all that. So a lot of people come a lot of the times from outside as well, right? As in not just for browsing, they will come sometimes just for talks, and so you get a really mixed bag. So I feel you get a lot of people who love the whole, because it is a magical bookshop. Come on, it is, contemporary magic and ancient magic and stuff like that. So you get a lot of people with spells and this and that, and there's a constant kind of white magic, black magic. Totally. I can feel it. So every time I come back from Watkins, there's something that goes wrong. Like last week, like yesterday, I was carrying towards, I think somewhere in the middle of the day, I was carrying a hot drink and it spilled on my hands, okay? And I did get burnt in boiling water. Can you imagine? It was, and I hadn't shut the lid properly. It spilled on my hands. So I had to then step out of the shop to look for lavender essential oil so that I can put it, because I know for a fact that lavender is extremely cooling and fantastic. It like burns and all like this, it will heal. Okay. And sure enough, like I can barely feel much of it today, but it was really bad. I could not sit there. And so when this another client came, which was also a very difficult one, I literally had a real burning sensation going on in my hand, and I'm thinking, oh my god, what is going on with this? And sure enough, it was a duo, mother and son duo, right? And it was very difficult, their situation, they were foreign. And whatever, again, like confidentiality, I can't reveal what it was and all that, but it was really, again, difficult situation, finances and blah blah blah, and yeah. So you see, and I'm sitting with my hand which is burning, and I'm trying to put lavender and hoping like things will just be calm and calm. But it takes time, it'll take at least an hour or so. But you see, but that is a nimitta, that is an omen. That is an omen that things are going to be very difficult. They're going to burn, you see. So you have to really pay attention to it. And incidentally, the mother had sun in Leo, so there was a lot of this fire energy. She was sun and Mars in Leo, conjunction.
Oh, no wonder you got burned. Okay,
Yeah,
then.
but it was just before that. But you see how it completely ties up perfectly. You see?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, we'll definitely be looking forward to the part 2 next week.
Okay.
It's very insightful, very informative. Yeah, thank you so much, Sonal,
Okay.
for that. And yes, guys, we will be back next week. And our just to say, Sonal will be giving us the part 2 for next week. But next week we do have Patricia Godden, who's going to be speaking of evolution of consciousness, and then obviously in the part 2, Sonal will be giving us, although some rectification has to be done on the website, I'm sure that will be done before then. And she'll be giving us the part 2 of the Prashna Horary astrology. So yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Good night.
Thank you, Jill. Thank
See
you,
you
everyone,
guys.
for coming.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
See
Thank
you
you,
guys
Adam.
next week.
Okay.
Thank
See you next week, everyone.
Okay. Cheers, guys. Thanks a
Bye.
lot. Did you want to
Bye.
say something
Bye.
there, Adam? You're looking a bit confused. Okay, then. No worries, guys. Okay, good night, guys. Enjoy the rest of the
Okay.
evening. Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
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 Bye.